So we're going to look at Nehemiah chapter 4, mainly verses 1 to 9, but the whole of the chapter, probably too much for us to read, to take in the whole of the chapter this morning. But I do strongly recommend, urge you, encourage you, tell you, instruct you, command you, if you like, that you need to read the whole of Nehemiah. Certainly the first 4 chapters, but read the whole lot to get a flavor of the book and a more of an understanding of an overview of it all. So to recap what has happened already, which hopefully we should either be aware of, we might have remembered, but we might not know at all. That Nehemiah was a Jewish man living in exile in a place called Susa, which was the capital of the Persian Empire, which was a superpower at that time. His home country was in ruins. The great and the good, the Persians had kind of, and other oppressors had kind of bit by bit taken the great and the good, the talented golden generations of people to do work for them where they were, in places like Susa, in Babylon, and so on. And Nehemiah works for the king. He's a cupbearer, so like a wine waiter for the king, and he hears from one of his brothers about how terrible things are back in Jerusalem, how the walls are in great disrepair, the place is in ruins. Focuses on the walls, but presumably other parts of the city too. It's not good. It breaks his heart. He laments, he grieves, and he resolves after much prayer and fasting that he needs to do something about this. And so he goes to the king and he seeks permission from the king that he might go kind of have like a visa, a special pass to be able to go back to Jerusalem, to have the time off to do that, to have the resources, the equipment, the people that he needs to go and do that. He doesn't get many people. He just goes on the one animal that he has and goes and does a tour of the city, and then him and a group of other people decide that they're going to do it, that they will rebuild the walls. They will do their best. And so they gather steam with this, they gather energy with this, they gather people with this, they get going. And then comes the opposition from the people that were mentioned in the reading that we've heard already, who are named in this. Those people who are opposing and causing a threat to Nehemiah and the work that he is doing. The first one is called Sanballat. Then we have Tobias, and then somebody called Geshem. These people are named. There's archaeological, historical evidence, references to them elsewhere to see that they were real people who... And the thing perhaps to say as well is, because if you've encountered this before, maybe we might think of it in this way, that they kind of seem a bit like cartoon or superhero film or pantomime baddies, where they're just kind of made to see like they're just really, really bad people, and they're a little bit, we can't sort of take them that seriously. They're a bit silly in what they say, and they're just kind of evil people who are conspiring in the corner. It may well have been that they had good reason to feel kind of threatened and unsure about what has happened. They've been there all this time, and then suddenly Nehemiah breezes in, comes back, and they might be thinking, well, where were you? Where were you in all this time, living it up in Susa with the king? And they feel threatened and undermined. Sanballat was a Persian governor of Samaria, of a sort of like adjoining area, maybe which might have included Jerusalem as well. So he was a Persian official. And then Tobias, it tells us, Tobias was actually Jewish himself as well. As just like Nehemiah and the other people that are trying to rebuild the walls. But he was from a place called Ammon. That's why it says about the Ammonite, which I managed to say all right, I think, almost as well as Marcia said it. And then Geshem was Arabic, was an Arab living in that area. I think he might have been a local king as well. So the people that felt they had a stake in that area, in that community, people that would have felt threatened by what was going on here. So they might have had some kind of valid reason for opposing what Nehemiah was doing. They weren't just people that were being bad for the sake of being bad. But what I want us to focus on is really how this situation speaks to the problem that we can face as people of faith What do we do when we face opposition or any kind of challenge? Do we crumble? Just like the walls in Jerusalem had crumbled. Do we fall away? Or do we stand strong? Do we battle on, struggle on? Do we keep going? Do we trust in God? How do we deal with things, even when we are confident or at least feeling okay about the idea of God being on our side? Nehemiah is called by God to go and restore the broken walls of Jerusalem. He feels that God's blessing is going with him, and it seems like it did. His situation that he faces is a very literal, material one, where he's working to actually rebuild with bricks and mortar. Well, it probably wasn't bricks, stones and mortar, or whatever was required to build. But the physical act of building, which I'm glad that I don't know whether he actually ever, did any of the brickwork or anything like that. Certainly, if it had been me doing it, then it would have fallen down within a week. It would have been true what the opposition was saying. But he had a team of people to achieve this. And I feel that it's more than valid for us to apply this situation to our own challenges and projects that we have, whether they're about material things or simply about what we are trying to achieve in life, maybe in our personal life. And yet, even though Nehemiah believes he is working with God's blessing, that God has made a way for him, opened doors for him, Nehemiah still faces this opposition and threat. There's jeopardy, there's risk here, and there is ridicule. In verse 1, it says, actually, verse 2. Let's just go to verse 2. What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore things? Will they sacrifice? Will they finish it in a day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of rubbish and burnt ones at that? Tobiah the Ammonite was beside him, and he said, that stone wall they're building, any fox going up on it would break it down. It's quite condemnatory language, dismissing what they're doing. So the situation for Nehemiah and his colleagues is about facing opposition and how they could respond to this. And I believe that we can learn from this about how we face opposition, whether that be mockery and taunts, just like being thrown at Nehemiah here, about being made fun of, about maybe not being taken seriously, just like the weird Christian in the workplace or the Christian neighbor who's so nice who you can take advantage of. And actual threats and intimidation as well, which is what this grew into for Nehemiah and his colleagues. But again, I feel we can also think about these things, this challenge that we face here, in terms of how we deal with any situation that we face, any challenges, any problems, any issues, any difficulties, whether they be about practical things or just things that are more general. And I feel that what we have here is something that is such a powerful, transferable model of how we should deal with life. What we see in Nehemiah's response. Nehemiah's response to the undermining, threatening challenge posed by Sanballat and the others was by doing three key things. 1, praying. 2, arming themselves. And 3, being at the ready 24/7. The scriptures speak, and here is a flavor of what Nehemiah and the people of Jerusalem were doing in response to the big threat from their enemies. In verse 9 of chapter 4, it says, so we prayed to our God and set a guard as a protection against them day and night. In verse 13, so in the lowest parts of the space behind the wall, in open places, I stationed the people according to their families with their swords, their spears, and their bows. After I looked these things over, I stood up and said to the nobles and the officials and the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your kin, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. And verse 21. Through to verse 23. So we labored at the work, and half of them held the spears from break of dawn until the stars came out. I also said to the people at the time, let every man and his servant pass the night inside Jerusalem, so that they may guard for us by night and may labor by day. So neither I nor my brothers nor my servants nor the men of the guard who followed me ever took off our clothes. Each kept his weapon in his right hand. So they worked at everything other than the laundry. Yeah? There was no washing day because they were making sure that they were ready for action. They prayed. Nehemiah stationed people on the walls ready, and they armed one another up. And I don't know if you noticed, but each of those sections that I've read began with so. The word so. It's a response, a reaction. Something that we should have in our minds about what we will do. So, this is what I'm going to do. So, I will follow the Lord. So, I will trust in God. So, I will take this course of action. So, what is our response to anything we face, any kind of challenge? Now, I'm not suggesting, please do not hear me say that, well, do hear me say this that I'm correcting now. I'm not suggesting that we tool up with weapons, that we arm ourselves, okay? I'm not saying we take this literally in that way. Nor am I saying we engage in any kind of physical battle or war, unlike the unwise leaders of both Iran and the United States and Israel and Hezbollah. I'm in no way talking about a holy war or anything like that. But what I do see here is that faced with the challenges that the people of Jerusalem, led by Nehemiah, inspired by our God, faced those challenges. How they dealt with it, we should follow. With prayer, practicality, and commitment. Prayer and action together. They worked together as a team and worked together with God. Prayer is absolutely vital and fundamental in what we do. But action is vital too. We work in partnership with God, guided and equipped by the Spirit, inspired and informed by the Bible. Prayer and action. This is how Nehemiah and his people saw off the threat and got the job of rebuilding done. The stones did not miraculously just fly into place as soon as they prayed. Their opponents did not all just miraculously all fade away, all disappear as soon as they started to pray. But God worked through their prayers and their actions as they were equipped to defend themselves, as they worked and worked, as they began to be super organized, being committed to working and watching day and night. So we too need to be equipped. We too need to take practical action. We too need to work and work. We too, as Christians, need to be super organized. It's so important for us to trust God and to pray, just as Nehemiah did. But we also need to play our part in answering prayer, including our own prayers. Sometimes, I don't know if this is too outrageous to say, but sometimes, to be honest, just praying can feel a bit lazy. An easy option for us. Oh, I'll pray for you, brother. You know, somebody tells you they're lonely, and we say, oh, I'll pray for you, when maybe we could do something about the fact that they feel lonely. Leaving it to God, leaving it to others is important. But God needs us to do stuff as well. This is why Jesus puts together a team of people. This is why when we see the stories about Jesus healing people, they need to have come to Jesus. The woman who's been having the bleed for so many years, then she finds Jesus, she reaches out to him, she puts the work in to touch the hem of his garment. The friends who come together and lower their friend down through the roof so that Jesus can heal him. They do that. They put that work in, as well as having the prayerful desire for him to be healed. Now, there are some circumstances where there's not so much or anything at all that we can do except pray. But to be honest, there's usually something that we can do. So, what are we facing? What are we praying into right now? What are we doing about it? Is there somewhere or someone we're praying for where we could help them with practical stuff? Lend a hand, offer respite or rest or support or money or simply to be with them? Is there a situation that we are praying for, like an end to poverty, where we could actually do stuff to help make that happen? By helping a food bank, by supporting organizations that make a difference in that way, by putting pressure on the government or the council to make a difference. Or if we're praying for more people to know Jesus, then when did we last tell somebody about Jesus? When did we last actually have a conversation with somebody about our faith? Offer our testimony, if you like, or a testimony. Or actually invite and then accompany somebody at church. Or just show Jesus in the way that we behave. When did we last do these things? Prayer and action. This was Nehemiah's response to the challenges that he faced. It needs to be ours too. There was a very holy woman who lived, I'm trying to do the maths, 500-ish years ago in Spain. Her name was Teresa of Avila. And she very famously wrote this poem/prayer, which I think speaks to this. Christ has no body but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks, with which he looks compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands with which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands, yours are the feet, yours are the eyes. You are his body. Christ has no body now but yours. No hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks with compassion on this world. Christ has no body now on earth but yours. It's down to us to work with God. Amen.